Hello students, good morning to you all. Today we will be dealing with Module 5 of Business Economics. The chapter is Capital Investment Analysis and related topics. So far we have completed many of the topics in Business Economics, and capital is something which is so important in deciding economic activities of any business. Capital, as we all know, in Malayalam it is called Mooladhanam. Capital can be arranged from various sources. I won't get into details about capital because that itself is a huge topic. Capital can be divided into two. One is fixed capital and other is working capital. Capital refers to financial wealth. Capital refers to capital equipment. Capital refers to land. Capital refers to various other big machineries and materials, etc., etc., etc. Every business needs funds for two purposes. One is for establishment and other is for running the organization on a day-to-day basis. Fixed capital and working capital are the two types of capital we will look into now. Fixed capital is the long-term funds required to create production facilities through purchase of fixed assets such as land, plant and machinery, transportation, big transportation, etc., etc. Whereas working capital is a capital which is required to run the organization on a day-to-day basis. Example of fixed capital is land and plant and machinery. I am narrating these examples because these are sometimes asked in the university question examinations for 2 marks question write examples of working capital and fixed capital. Working capital are needed for short-term purposes. The need of the working capital arises, for example, purchase of raw material, remunerations for your contract laborers, remuneration for the contract transport, which has to be given on a daily basis. All those expenditure come under working capital. Why working capital assumes a lot of importance these days? Fixed capital is also important. Working capital term comes basically because there is a gap between the production and realization of the production from the market and the money coming to the system. The gap between the manufacturing and the sales proceeds coming back to the system will decide how much working capital you need. There are many organizations, there are many industries where there is a huge gap between the assembly of raw material, procurement of raw material, assembly of raw material, and then finalization of the products and selling and getting the money back. For example, tools. Tools industry will have at least 7 to 8 months or 9 months. So for these 9 months, you have to run the organization, you have to run the factory, and the money needed to run on a day-to-day basis is called your working capital. So your basic raw material, as I told you before, the basic raw material, the remuneration for the wages, etc., etc., comes under the category of working capital. Working capital varies from industry to industry. Automobile industry, you need huge working capital because of the value of the unit of a car is big. But in automobile industry, the manufacturers get the money back fast from the vendors or from the dealers and from the customers. Whereas some credit-oriented businesses, because of competition, you give a lot of credit in the marketplace. After manufacturing, you keep it in inventory, you give it to the dealers, and dealers sell it to the customers. A gap of 3 months, 4 months happen. Then such industries will need a lot of working capital. Factors affecting working capital, as I was telling you, nature of business. For example, railways or P&T or bank, etc., etc., they don't need much working capital. They need a lot of initial fixed capital because once the train starts running, without giving money, we cannot enter the train. So the gap between the manufacturing of trains and the money coming in is very meager. So nature of business decides the type of working capital. So industries like railways and public utilities and hospitals and KSEB, your electricity boards, etc., do not need major working capital. And then length of period of manufacture. If the length of period of manufacture is high, you need higher working capital. Rate of turnover. If the rate of turnover is slow, you need a lot of working capital. If the rate of turnover is fast, you are able to rotate it faster, working capital is relatively on the lower side. Terms of purchase and sales. Some of the products you have to buy by giving upfront cash. Then your working capital requirement is very high. Some of the products you get a credit of 30 days or 90 days and your sales is immediate, you need less working capital. But then when your sales proceeds are very huge, you need very high working capital. Price level changes. Because of competition, sometimes the price changes, price comes down, and there will be a lot of impact on working capital. Market conditions, you have to, when competition increases, you have to offer a lot of credit to the marketplace, then you need a lot of working capital. Seasonality of operations, for example, air conditioners. Air conditioners sells like hotcakes during summertime, and during monsoon time and winter time it doesn't sell. So during winter time and then during monsoon time you don't need much working capital, whereas during summertime for manufacturing of air conditioners you need a lot of working capital. Converting assets into cash. So these are the different types of, these are the factors which affect the working capital. Now we come to capital budgeting. How much money we have to capitalize for starting a business? What is the method? I'll just read out the definition. Capital budgeting is defined as the rational allocation of a firm's scarce resources among the investment opportunities with a view to maximize the market value of the firm in the long run. Importance of capital budgeting. Capital budgeting involves, number one is it involves a lot of financial cash. Wherever you have to handle a lot of cash, you have to give a lot of importance. Capital budgeting decisions require large capital investments, maybe from share market, maybe from various other sources, equity and loans or promoters funds, etc., whatever it is. And since huge, large financial funds are deployed, these decisions are irreversible and it is extremely important. And it has got long-term implication. I cannot buy a plot of 10 acres by spending some 5 crores, 10 crores and then realize I made a mistake and then shift the place to another place because that involves a lot of financial losses. So capital budgeting assumes a lot of importance that way. The decisions are irreversible and because of that the choices are extremely important and difficult to make. These are the importance of capital budgeting. Factors affecting capital investment decisions. One is amount of investment, how much you have invested, minimum rate of return on investment. Most of the time, you borrow money from bank or from other sources at some interest rate of 10% or 15%. So the minimum rate of return of investment for that particular business is maybe 15% or 10%. Below that, if the return comes, the project is at a loss. So capital budgeting is so important, investment is so important, the returns play an important role in that. Return expected from the investment plays an important role in that. And risk and uncertainty. There is a lot of risk, there is a lot of uncertainty in capital investment decisions. So risk means you have to consider a lot of probable decisions which you have to make, and then uncertainty, you don't know what is going to happen. Still, you have to use some statistical formulas to arrive at some uncertain decisions. Capital budgeting process. This particular capital budgeting process was there in the last year's examination and also maybe in the last 2-3 years KTU university examinations. This was there, so students would it will help you if you give importance to this. Capital budgeting process. The first is identification of a project, Which is the project? What are the types of projects available which we can take up? Number 2 is that, and out of these available projects, what are the investments to be done? How much investment is for this project? How much investment is for project A, B, C, D? The next is, out of this, arrive at a decision to what you will choose out of those investments proposed. Which is the type of business you would be comfortable with? Which is the type of business return on investment you would like to have from the business? That is the decision making. The next is, after the decision is made to get into this sort of industry, then comes the preparation of capital budgeting and appropriations, and then the implementation. This is a basic block diagram of a capital budgeting processes. Methods of capital budgeting. There are 2 types. I'm making it very simple for you to understand. There are 2 types of capital budgeting. One is discounted flow capital budget, discounted flow method, and other is non-discounted flow method. What is the difference between discounted flow and non-discounted flow? Discounted flow, in discounted flow, the net present value of money is taken into account. That means, if you can buy 1 liter of petrol at the rate of 75 rupees today, after 10 years, how much petrol you can get at 75 rupees? If it is less than 1 liter, the value of your money has come down. So that is called a discounted cash flow method. Whereas non-discounted cash flow method, this is not taken into account. The net present value of money is not taken into account. So I repeat once again, there are two methods, there are two capital budgeting techniques. One is discounted cash flow methods and another is non-discounted cash flow methods. In this non-discounted cash flow methods, there are two types. One is average rate of return and number two is payback method. Dear students, please remember that I don't expect any problem to come from this because it is a very simple stuff. But then typically the advantages and disadvantages of payback method is normally clubbed with a problem. So you have to understand, you have a lot of problems are given in the textbook, a lot of problems are available on the mobile app, etc., etc. So let us look into this. These are non-discounted methods. These are non-discounted methods. These are non-discounted methods. These are non-discounted. These are Fine. So there are probably two methods of capital budgeting. One is non-discounted methods and discounted methods. Non-discounted method has got two. One is A is average rate of return and 3 is payback method. And discounted cash flow method has got NPV method and 2 is internal rate of return method and profitability index method. Dear students, please understand that there will be a problem from this particular portion. This problem could be of 9 marks or 10 marks or 6 marks. So please take care to understand this. So first we study about the average rate of return. We all know average rate of return is equal to average income by average investment. How much I have invested and how much is the income which is generated from the investment. So income by investment gives you the average rate of return. This is a very simple thing. Advantages of average rate of return is, it is easy to understand and compute. How much you have invested and out of this investment, how much income you have generated. It is very easy. Number 2, it takes into account the entire cash flow spread across the life of the project. From the beginning of the project till the time where you have to calculate the average rate of return, the cash flow is taken into consideration. That is one advantage. And the advantage, it is based on accounting information which is readily available. And also it is a method commonly understood by accountants and easy to make. Average rate of return is equal to average income divided by average investments. It's very easy to make. But the disadvantage of this is this: it is based upon profit and cash, it is based upon accounting profit and not on cash profit. There is a difference between accounting profit and cash profit. Cash profit is the money which you have in hand, whereas accounting profit remains only on paper. So that is one disadvantage. ARR is based on accounting profit and not on cash profits. It ignores the time value of money. The value of money at the beginning of the project and the value of money at the end of the project is not considered. It is considered as the same. If it is different, it is considered as the same, and that is a disadvantage. It is not suitable for comparing projects of different duration. For example, you have a project A of 2 years and project B of 5 years. These two things cannot be compared because of this ARR. Then, payback period method. Payback period method also comes under the category of non-discounted cash flow method. Payback method, while all other things remain same, if I have invested so much money into the project, how fast I will get it back? Pay back. I have paid something and that payment will come back to me in what period of time? Lesser the period of time, it is better for the project. This payback method. In this payback method, dear students, you have to be careful about one thing. There is a payback. There are projects which give equal cash inflows every year, and there are projects which give unequal cash flows every year. The projects which give equal cash flows, the payback is calculated with the formula C by R. P is the payback period in years, C is original capital investment, and R is net returns per annum. So P is equal to C by R is a formula used for equal cash inflows, whereas P is equal to E plus B by C is a formula used for uneven cash inflows. That means the first year cash inflow is 2,000, second year cash inflow is 3,000, third year cash inflow is 4,000, fourth year cash inflow is 5,000. It is uneven. Then the formula which you have to use will change. It becomes P is equal to E plus B by C. E is number of years immediately preceding the year and the payback. B is balance to be recovered, and C is cash flow during the year of recovery. Dear students, please understand that out of this payback, you can get a job, you can get a question. Last year I remember there was a question on advantages and disadvantages of payback method and what problem associated. Now let us look at the advantages. It is simple both in concept and application. How much money I will get back in this investment if I put some 5,000 rupees in a particular small project? How fast I will get it back? Will I get it back in 1 year's time? Will I get it back in 2 years' time? Etc. 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 That is an advantage. It is useful for ranking the projects which are equally desirable under the other methods of capital budgeting. The company can judge the length of the time its funds will be tied up and the risk involved in various groups. It is ready method for dealing with risk as it emphasizes on the earliest return on investment. You can really have a measure on the risk, because if this project gives me the money faster than the other project of my investments, the risk can be in a very simple manner calculated and you can arrive at some decisions. These are the advantages. Disadvantages is that the net present value of money is not calculated. The method ignores the cash flows beyond the payback period. Many times, payback period is the time taken to get back our investment. But then sometimes in some industries, the returns after that might be tremendously good and we ignore that. So that is a great disadvantages of payback method. It measures project capital recovery, and this method does not take into account depreciation and money spent on insurance, interest and maintenance, etc. 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 The next one is NPV, net present value. This comes under discounted cash flow method. These are the methods where your capital, where your time value of money is taken into consideration. NPV, the formula for NPV is equal to C1 divided by 1 plus K to the power of 1, 1 plus K to the power of 1, divided by C2, 1 plus K to the power of 2, plus C3 divided by 1 plus K to the power of 3, plus Cn divided by 1 plus K to the power of n, minus cost of opportunity, cost of investment. Whereas C1, C2, C3, etc. represents net cash inflows in years 1, 2, 3. N represents the discount rate, K represents the discount rate, and CO is the initial cost of the investment, and N is the expected lifetime of the project. In case the NPV is positive, supposing NPV is a positive one, that means this is bigger than the cost of investment. If NPV is positive, that is NPV is greater than 0, then the project should be accepted. If the NPV is positive, project accepted. If NPV is equal to negative, project rejected. If NPV is equal to 0, we need not reject the project, because there can be a time where the project becomes profitable. I repeat once again, these are the issues. From this, there are a lot of issues, a lot of problems come up, and you can score good marks. Now, advantages of NPV method, it takes into account all cash flows occurring over the entire life of the project. Entire life of the project. Cash flows are considered over the entire life of the project. It incorporates the time value of money. It is on estimated cash flow. Disadvantage is, in practice, it is difficult to maintain the estimates of cash flow due to uncertainty and precise measures. It is grossly affected by different discount rates. Okay.